So good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Therapeutic Thursday with me, John Quick. Some of you may know my face by now and know that I, as well as being a therapist, I also had an aortic dissection, an aneurysm, type A ascending dissection, very nearly 20 years ago. And consequently, I suffered a type B aortic dissection in the descending arch. I'm also on blood thinners, which are, of course, for the monitoring of an aortic valve, which I had fitted as well. But that's enough about me. What I wanted to do as well is welcome today's guest, Velda MacKenzie, who's joining us from Canada. So a very warm welcome to you, Velda. Thank you for putting yourself in the firing line.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
And I'll be back with you in a moment. I just wanted to remind people to like and subscribe. And if you want to send us or me any messages, please feel free to do that, and I will always get back to you. So now, to you, Velda. As I understand it, you suffered an aortic dissection 5-6 years ago?
6 years ago, yeah, 2020.
2020.
Yeah.
Would you like to tell us a little bit about that?
No, I never like to talk about it. I'm sorry. I like to put a little humor in my speech. Yeah, back in February of 2020, I was walking my dog and I had a funny sensation in my stomach. I thought it was indigestion. So when I got home, I went to find out to get something for my pain, and then I had a sharp, piercing pain in my upper back by my shoulder blades. And the odd thing that really scared me was I kept fainting and falling on the floor. And my dog was asking me what was wrong with me, because I never did that before in my life.
So the dog was showing obvious concern, was he?
She was.
Or
She was.
Yeah.
She was worried. There was just the two of us alone, so we were like peas and carrots. So one of the times when I woke up, I thought, this is really serious. I have to phone 911. So I phoned 911. And before I knew it, there was paramedics in my house. I think I must have passed out in the meantime, because it just seemed like a minute and they were there. And they told me what a wonderful dog I had. She let them in the house and never even barked at them, because she knew I needed help. So anyway, took me to the hospital. Excuse me. Did tests, all kinds of blood work, x-rays, ultrasounds, everything but a CT. And finally, it was close to morning when they were done with all the testing. They did a CT and my aorta was dissecting, type A ascending aorta dissection. So they phoned Halifax, Nova Scotia, which is the province next to PEI. I live in PEI. And they made arrangements to fly me down to Halifax on a medevac plane. And I arrived there. When I arrived there, they did a CT again on me, and my aorta was rupturing at the time. So the surgeon was talking to my daughter on the phone, and he said, we're giving her a 15% chance to survive, because this is really serious and she doesn't have much time left. So I didn't hear that. So according to me, I just was going to have surgery. So after
they didn't
the
tell
surgery,
you that, presumably.
No, they didn't let me know. When you go to charge your phone, sometimes you plug it in and it says 15% chance or 15% life left in your battery. That's not very much, is it? It's kind of small. So anyway, after 12 hours of surgery, they put me in a coma for 2 days. And actually, they had me out of the surgery, but they didn't sew my chest up because I was bleeding too much. So they left me for the night, opened chest. They didn't leave me out in the hall or anything. They put me in ICU. and waited until the bleeding slowed down a little bit. Then it was I was intubated, so I couldn't talk, and they were having a hard time waking me up from my surgery because of the magnitude of the surgery. It was just like I just didn't want to wake up, I guess. So anyway, long story short, I'll shorten it up a little bit. They took the intubation out and they were tube feeding me because I was at risk of choking. And I was in ICU for a week. And then they put me in step down and sent me back to Charlottetown, PEI, where I was from, and hospital in there. And in there, I was in the hospital from February 19th till April 1st, and they let me out on April 1st because they needed the bed for the COVID. COVID was happening.
Yeah.
Everybody was making a big fuss over COVID, and I just wanted to live. I didn't care about COVID. But anyway, they sent me home with exercises to do, and my son was at my house with my dog because she needed someone there with her. And we used to go for walks every day and do the exercises every day. But yeah, it was really hard to adjust to a new life of not doing very much. And so where am I going with this?
Well, let me just ask you a couple of questions about that.
Sure.
I'm interested to know because what we're also trying to do in these sessions is look at some of the therapeutic aspects of the condition and how we cope with it emotionally, physically, mentally, and so forth. And I'm interested to know how it is after 5-6 years to be retelling it. What does it stir in you?
What it stirs in me is the false hope I had. I felt like I had false hope. The doctors sent me home to Charlottetown Hospital and didn't really tell me anything, or if they did tell me anything, I didn't remember because I had no idea what happened to me. I felt like I was hit by a truck, but to cope with it myself, I tried to find people who had the same thing happen to them that would happen to me, aortic dissection. And every time I contacted anybody that I heard had it or knew of someone who had it, they were all dead. Like I thought, oh, and then I thought, oh dear, why am I still living? So it was really hard to cope with the whole thing. It was a lot of information and a lot of damage was done to my body. I couldn't really move very well. And I had to take medication. I find I'm not a very good medication person, so I didn't like the medication.
Can you tell us a little bit more about what you mean by the doctors giving you false hope?
They let me think that I was going to be back to normal again. You'll be back to normal again in about 6 months to a year. And I thought,
Right.
oh, good. So that's something to work for, but I'll never be back to normal again. They
So
should have.
that's quite a critical point for everybody, isn't it? So you came out being told you're going to be back for 6 to 8 months, you're going to be fine again. And from talking to you, I know enough now to know that your journey has been very challenging, and it hasn't unfolded like that for you, has it?
Not at all. No, now I can't walk without using a walker because my balance is gone. I don't have any balance at all. And but I do have hope that I'm going to someday be a little bit better, but I don't, it's been 6 years now, like 6.5 years, so I don't know when that's going to happen, but I'm going to keep working at it. Yeah, it seemed like that my surgeon said that everything went well when he did the surgery, and my heart looked well, it looked healthy, and the fact that I was a fitness instructor for 25 to 30 years previous to this, I think he said that helped me get through the surgery, that I was
So
physically in shape.
the fact that you were a fitness trainer, would I be right in surmising to experienced this kind of massive change in your body from being very, very fit to really struggling to be fit at all. Has that been very emotionally challenging for you?
It's I look at it like a grief. I'm grieving my old person, my old fitness person. I'm grieving the loss of that person because I miss her every day. You know, I'd just get up and do things, just get up and do things, and the things that I needed to do, like I used to cut my own grass, I used to shovel my own snow, I used to do everything myself, and now I can't. So yeah, it's a grief of the loss of.
Absolutely, and I'm sure that must be very difficult for you to deal with. And with that, of course, depression is almost inevitable, isn't it?
It really is, John. I was talking with, I'm a co-moderator with my Canadian support group, Aortic support group, and we were talking last week about this. And one of the members said, she said, after my surgery, my doctor offered me my doctor told me I should go to a therapist and get therapy for PTSD. Well, she said, he talked about me having depression. She said, I wasn't depressed. But then after I looked at myself for a while, she said I was home and I wasn't going out anywhere and I wasn't going to talk to people. And I realized I was depressed. You know, if you've never been depressed in your life, which is, it's a mental illness, people get depressed on a daily basis, maybe because something broke or the car wasn't working and I'm so depressed. But that's not depressed. Depression is a real mental sickness.
It's a very widely interpreted term, isn't it?
It
And we
is.
have to be sort of careful because, and we even have to be careful about using the word illness because that tends to kind of stigmatize it. I prefer to see it as part of our human condition, which is
Yes.
affected by experiences that we may have and are likely to have in some shape or form as we travel through this life. And it seems to me, as a therapist, I wouldn't even need to kind of put it in a box and call it depression because, once I've done that, then what are we going to do anyway? But
Yeah.
what I'm seeing from talking to you is that you've had to make enormous life adjustments, which would be challenging for anybody. I'm also interested to know, given the change and what the doctors said about, oh, you're going to be fine, what they now have to say about that, or have had to say about that.
What the doctors had to say about it? Not very much because I don't have my surgeon moved away. I don't have him anymore, but there's another surgeon took his place. And he said to me that my body probably doesn't work as used to work because of the time of the surgery, the length of the surgery and the time that I was on the heart and lung machine. There might be some brain damage, like he wanted me to have a CT scan for my head, but I didn't do that because I didn't want to know. I guess I just wanted to try and fix myself. I really I'm having a hard time doing that. It's
Mm.
it's well, it's grief, so you go through all the stages and it takes so long to get through it.
Yes. And how do you feel you're doing with that? Do you have emotional and mental health support?
I did have when I was living on PEI, but just last June, a year ago on June the 25th, I moved over with my daughter because I wasn't able to be alone and be safe. So I don't have my medical team anymore because I moved to a different province. I live in Nova Scotia now, so I did have a mental health nurse and I had a
Mm-hmm.
family physician and I had a cardiologist on PEI, but now I don't have them anymore here, now that I'm here in Nova Scotia. So I have to try and my name is on a list for new physician, but it takes a while. Here in Canada, there's a shortage of physicians and
Yes.
care workers.
So that's another challenge for you,
Yeah.
isn't it? I mean, I think post this session we should be working on trying to find more support for you
Yeah.
to help you along. And you've been through a series of losses, it seems to me, as well, haven't you? I mean, you were, bless you, you had your lovely dog, and she's no longer with you.
She was a wonderful friend, and we were together. She was the one who got me. I started walking after my surgery because she wanted me to go with her for walks. So I would do that for her, but it was funny. We'd be walking around. I have 2 acres of land to walk on, so we'd be walking around the yard, and if I got up, turned my head one direction, I would fall. So the
Hmm.
falls were happening before I got treated for them, because then I'd get to the doctor and I'd say, "Well, I keep falling if I'm really dizzy," and they would they checked my legs for um, circulation, and everything seemed to be fine, but they just didn't know what to do with me. So I just kept exercising because I used to be a fitness instructor.
Yeah.
I know what to do to strengthen my body, but it doesn't seem to make that much difference. Um, but I'll tell you one thing. I didn't tell you this yet when we had our interview, because it just happened this last week. There's a place close to where I live here in Nova Scotia that's called the Mobility Fitness Program. And they offer fitness program for people with disabilities and mobility issues. So that's me. I can't really, my legs feel like they're made of cement. So you can tell me to exercise all you want, but I can only do so much. So these people I'm going to see them tomorrow. I have an appointment tomorrow for a
Oh, that's great.
consultation. Yeah. At first I thought the depressed part of me said, "Oh, Velda, don't bother with that. You won't get any help from them." But the fitness instructor part of me said, "Just do it."
Just do it. Yeah.
So,
If I was over there, I'd walk you there. I think it's really important that you do it. Yes, and that's
yeah,
terrific. So you would go there as a kind of outpatient, would that be right?
I could go there as an outpatient, or they could come to my home to they do
Okay.
in-home exercises with people too. So it's up to me. I go back and forth. I think, well, the fitness instructor in me says, just go and be with part of a group and get to know people. But the other part of me that's depressed and grieving says, just stay home. You don't want to talk to people. So the mind is a powerful
The
thing.
way you're phrasing that to me, I know what the answer is. You're already really telling me that you know you need to go, don't
Yeah,
you?
yeah,
I don't really think that the depressed part, it may be going, maybe at your shoulder going like this,
yes.
but it doesn't sound to me from the that you have that it has the upper hand.
I tend to knock it off my shoulder and say, get out of here.
Lick it away.
Yeah,
Yes. I mean, you can listen to it, can't you? And we can all listen to it. You know, what can we learn from it? And sometimes we actually have to have a dialogue with that. You know,
yes,
it's
yeah,
often in psychology, and people may be familiar with this, referred to as well as the inner child, who's sort of saying, I can't do this, I can't do this. And as the adult, we have to sometimes take that child by the hand and walk them across the road and say, yes, you can.
Well, I used to be that way when I was the fitness instructor. People would say, "Well, I can't do this, and I can't do as many push-ups as you can. I can't do as many sit-ups." I said, "Yes, you can. You're just listening to the wrong voice in your head." So I have to teach myself that. I have to tell
That's
myself that.
interesting. And that in itself is a dramatic change for you to come to terms with. That
It is.
what you're essentially saying is when you were a fitness instructor, you breezed it. And
I did. Yeah.
and now you're not breezing it at all if your legs feel like cement. And again, I think that, those specific details would be very challenging for anybody. So again, my advice there as well would be to get into that place where you accept and forgive that you are feeling depressed, because instead of saying that, there's something really, really wrong with me, and, I'm weak or whatever, as some of us do, actually, it's a perfectly normal human reaction, isn't it? Who
It
wouldn't
is.
feel like that?
That's right.
And so that's also a way in which we can help ourselves to not let the depressed voice. I often describe it to people as it can be like a civil war in our head. And, the dark armies come munching forward, those critical voices that can be there 24/7. You can't do this. Run, 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 going at us. And we have to push back against them and say,
Yes.
no, get away from me. And bring in the feeling as being perfectly normal.
Yes.
And you deserve to go to this place. The way I would look at it as well is you've suffered enough.
Yes, I did. I really did suffer a lot. And when I go through my losses, I think of, like, I had my own home. I had a nice little house on 2 acres of land. I used to cut the grass and shovel the snow. It was my house and mine and Bella's. And I had to sell that and move over here with my daughter. That was a big loss for me.
Yeah.
It was my home. It was my safe place to be. And it wasn't fancy. It was just like a little cottage, but it was mine. And I felt very proud of owning it. Just like I felt proud of being a fitness instructor. And people used to say to me, you are so in such good shape. I used to teach senior citizens how to do fitness. And they would say, wow, you're in such good shape to be your age. And I'd say, yeah, I'll probably be teaching fitness classes when I'm in a wheelchair. I'll be teaching wheelchair fitness. And it kind of jokingly, I didn't realize anything was coming that was this traumatic in my life. I thought, and other people would say, sometimes they'd say, you're so fit, you're probably going to live till be 100. And I say, well, or get hit by a truck. And this was the aortic truck that hit me.
Yes.
And
again, rather than resisting that, much as we might want to, and kind of not go into that thing of like, oh, this has completely changed my life. And, we sometimes want to deny that and not accept that reality. The truth is that we do have to accept that this condition, when it happens, is, as you say, metaphorically like being hit by a truck.
Yeah.
And we have to sort of try and pick ourselves up off the floor, and it's very, very difficult. Yeah.
Numerous times, and we have to pick ourselves up numerous times. Like, I've been out 6.5 years now. I've had to pick myself up to go to this mobility fitness place. And instead of, I just wanted to give up. I just wanted to know I was just giving up. And I get encouragement from my friends, my Aortic Hope friends. They encourage me and help me to make up my mind to say, just do it. Just go and do it. You'll feel better.
Yeah.
And I really find the Aortic Hope group wonderful.
I think it's also very important, though, within the just do it, that it's not done with kind of like any kind of aggression towards yourself.
Right.
It's not like, it doesn't have to be a war, between the two things. Just do it. No, it can be, I am capable of doing this. I'm going to do this for myself. I'm going to give myself this gift.
Yeah.
Make it maybe a bit more gentle on yourself.
That's a good idea to do, because I tend to do things for other people first before I do them for me. Like, I was thinking I should really do this to show other people who are going through the same thing I'm going through that it can help, it can be done, it can be possible. So I have to give myself credit too. So
Haven't you noticed, and that don't many of us notice, that we're much harsher on ourselves than on other people? And if somebody has a problem, we're very understanding and we help them through it. And then if we have the same problem, we can be very self-critical.
And there's a group that I was in with Tom Basserier. He does a mindfulness and meditation program. And there was one night that I remember this very vividly. He said, we have to treat ourselves like we would treat our best friend.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that really stuck with me. I think we do have to treat ourselves like you wouldn't say to your best friend, oh, you never mind doing that. You wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah. Or you're
But
lazy or something, or
yeah,
you just can't get it together.
yeah, but you
Yeah,
say it to yourself fast,
we
but you
do.
wouldn't say it to your best friend. You'd say you
Yeah.
encourage your best friend
And
to.
why do you think we do that, Velda?
I don't know. I always did it my whole life.
Mm.
Just self-esteem, I guess.
It's a huge factor in working with people and the human condition, that how self-critical we can be and yet kind of forgiving of others. And it's, again, I've used this term many times now. There's massive cognitive dissonance there. It doesn't make
Yes,
sense, does it?
it doesn't. I wonder why.
And where
Is there
we
an answer?
learn that to be
Yeah,
so down and hard on ourselves.
I know.
I
I learned
mean,
it from my mother. I really did. I really learned it from my mother. She used to say to herself when she was older and I had to help her with her cares, she would say, oh, I'm so stupid. Oh, I'm so stupid. She'd say that so many times. She never called me stupid, but she was good at calling herself stupid. And I said to her one day, I said, stop calling my mother stupid. And she stopped and she looked at me with a surprised look on her face as if she didn't realize what she was doing. She just kind of naturally did it.
and it had probably become totally automatic for her, hadn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's a kind of, bang, isn't it? It's that you're so stupid.
yeah.
Yeah. But you're telling us that you've internalized that.
Yes, that's right. I did.
You may
Yeah.
not walk around saying it, but you're giving us indications that that you inside feel yourself stupid, maybe even
Mm.
about this condition. I'm stupid because I'm not as fit as I was. I'm stupid because I'm in pain, or my
Yeah.
legs feel like cement.
Or it was my fault that this aortic dissection happened to me. And that triggered a memory in my mind. When I got back to Charlottetown Hospital and I was in my hospital bed, a doctor come in to see me, just a random doctor who was doing the floor that day. He said, well, Velda, he said, you had a big event that happened to you. He said, how are you feeling? And I said, this shouldn't have happened to me. I said, this really shouldn't have happened to me. And he said, what do you mean? And I said, I was a fitness instructor. I was in shape. I looked after myself. And he said, I looked at your chart here. And did you have hypertension? Were you diagnosed with hypertension? I said, yes, quite a few years ago. He said, and do you take medication every day for it? And I said, no, I didn't take medication every day for it because I didn't like the way medication. Well, he said, there you go.
Hmm.
So he put the blame on me right that instant. And I felt guilty ever since then. I thought,
Oh, right.
oh, so it was my fault. So, but I found out later
And
on,
that's
but
and because doctors come with authority and there's a hierarchy, that's very powerful message.
yeah,
And you've
yeah,
internalized that, haven't you? Whereas
yeah,
we could swing that right round, and I completely understand where you're coming from. You probably thought, and there's plenty of information out there on social media to say, just get yourself fit, eat well. You won't need any of this blood pressure medication, or meditate your high blood pressure away. And it's
hmm.
not as simple as that, is it?
No, it's not. No, it's not. And I found out by being in my Aortic Hope group, the not the Canadian one, but the first one that I joined. There was Ryan Rodimer, and he was a geneticist, and he was talking to me one day, one to one, and he said, "What was your blood pressure before you dissected?" I told him. He said, "That wasn't from not taking medication. That's genetics." He said, "You're genetically inclined to have aortic." He said, "Was there anyone in your family who died of an aortic dissection?" I said, "My father died suddenly, and they didn't do an autopsy on him, but they said he had a massive heart attack. But I'm sure he had an aortic dissection."
Mm.
Yeah.
And
So
and may I ask when your father died? What year was that?
back in 86,
Right.
1986, he was the
Yeah.
same age as I was when I dissected.
So in all of that time, what is it? 40 years later,
Yeah.
techniques and science has advanced considerably, and that was the big mask, wasn't it, for aortic dissections, that because they weren't picked up, then people would have a heart attack because they were dissecting, and that was putting, you know, even more strain on the heart. But yeah, there's a similar story in my own family and back in Ireland where someone died, and we now think they probably had a ruptured aorta or a dissection. Yes.
Yeah. I think it happens a lot more than we realize too. But right away, when Ryan said that to me, I believed what he said, because I thought, oh, I just put two and two together of my father having the heart attack and not able to do anything. I spent time with him when he was dying, and I think he was going through an aortic dissection, but they didn't give him a CAT scan. They just let him die because they thought it was a heart attack. But I immediately took the blame off myself when Ryan told me that. I thought, oh, that wasn't my fault after all. If it's genetics, then I'll accept that, and I'll really embrace that, because it's a lot better than.
So the thing we would notice there therapeutically is you're often looking for outside voices to tell you what's wrong and what's right.
Yes. Yeah.
So the surgeon can say something, then it affects you. The geneticist can say something, and it affects you. And the work for you in therapeutically, you know, if you were in therapy, would be to take greater ownership of your own decisions and your own choices, your own care, your own regard and love for yourself.
Yes.
Rather, you know, a phrase that I found very, very useful is, just because somebody tells you you're wrong, it doesn't mean you are in life.
Exactly, yeah.
So, you know, I often use the idea of a tree, that someone says, you know, you're wrong about something or criticize us. There's our tree, you know, which we want to try and keep vertical and rooted. And the tree goes down very, very easily. It's blown over by that criticism, when actually it's just their opinion. It's just their view. It's not absolutely proven.
No, I tell my grandkids now that I'm spending so much time with my grandkids, they'll be telling me a story, and I say, well, that's just their opinion. That doesn't mean it's the right opinion, because you have your own opinion, and everybody has their own opinion. You just have to decide what's right for you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. It is not a pretty place to be, and I want people to know that it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
It's like the song that Jelly Roll has out. I don't know if you ever listened to it. I Am Not Okay is the name of the song. I am not okay. And as soon as I heard that song, I said, yes, that's what I want to say. When people ask me how I am, I am not okay. I'm barely getting by. I'm losing track of days and losing sleep at night.
Yeah.
So that's just being honest. It's not complaining. It's not growling about anything. But I used to think I don't want to complain about anything. So, but now when the VON nurse comes to help me with my shower, I sit her down and I tell her the story of my dissection. I said, this is what's wrong with me. This is why I can't move around very good. So I do it on a weekly basis, really.
When we were talking before, you told me this interesting story and idea about meeting up with somebody else who had had an aortic dissection. I think you met them at the airport or something. They came to see you.
Yes.
And you said something really interesting about that, which was about how immediate the connection was and that it didn't really require words. And I thought that'd be really interesting for us to dive into a little bit more, and what you felt about meeting that person and why you said it like that.
That was really life-changing. That was the first, well, my second, I guess, my aortic dissection person that I met. Chris was, she is a member of our Canadian support group, and we met online in the support groups and got, we felt that we were kindred spirits. Like we would contact each other daily or weekly and find out how we were. And I knew she was walking with a walker, and she knew what condition. I wasn't walking with a walker yet because I hadn't broken my hip, but she was coming out of the airport, coming out of the departure or the arrival place, and I was sitting on a bench, and our eyes caught each other, and she was being wheeled out on a wheelchair. And when she got to where I was, we just hugged, never said anything. We both sat down, never said anything, and looked at each other. And I said, "We don't need words." And she said, "No, we don't." It was just like she knew my story and I knew her story. And we were just like, the connection was magical. It was just like, what words can you say to something like that? Because we both dissected and we both knew each other's story.
So interesting, and there's an immediate bond between you, isn't there? Because I said this to somebody earlier today, that perhaps people don't really realize what's going on inside for us. We look okay on the outside, but people who've been through it, they know what it's like. And that's a kind of non-verbal language, isn't it? Of
It is.
Communication and connection.
Yeah. And this year, on June the 13th, my co-moderator from Ontario came to visit me. And it was the same with us. We just embraced each other and just looked at each other and said, "Wow, this is magical to have this connection, to know what someone else went through. Not exactly the same, but the same type of tragedy that goes on inside your life and you survive. Like, we're survivors. And it's just like when you meet another survivor, you just know it. It's very special.
And I think we can think of examples, say soldiers in battle and on their
Yes.
regiment or their platoon, and they've been injured, or some people I know who had, a serious illness when they were young, and they were all in a ward together, and they meet up, and it's that connection is just there.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
It strikes me that there's a kind of safety in that, because what we're doing a lot with this condition, it's that four-letter word that begins with F but is spelled F-E-A-R. We are living with fear a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But what you're talking about gives safety, I think.
It is safety because when you're talking to someone who hasn't been through an aortic dissection, you want them to know what you've gone through, and you want them to know how much you suffered, but you can't tell them that.
Well, yes, or else we're always explaining and then ending up over explaining, or then wondering again self-critically whether it's TMI, too much information. I can think of that's happened to me with certain people, and says a lot about them, but you have the impression, right, okay, shut up about it. No.
Exactly, yeah. And you do feel like it's TMI because it's almost like I call it overkill. It's just like, don't tell them anymore. Just forget about it.
Yeah,
Because
what's the
there's
point?
no way.
Yeah,
what's the point? There's no way they can understand. And
but
we
here you are, you meet this friend at the airport. You don't have to explain anything, do you?
not a
Such a
thing.
relief.
Yeah. And just to hold each other and be together. We were together for 3 days that time, and we did some things that like I took her to the park that I used to walk Bella with, and she could see what a peaceful place it was. And she got to put her feet in the water in Cavendish Beach. Something that she wanted to do her whole life. She wanted to see Anne of Green Gables' house. She wanted to put her feet in the ocean, and she got to do that. But she said the best part was being with me.
That's lovely. That's a
Yeah.
lovely story. So again, to balance up some of the things you've been saying, the richness of that is, ironically, your aortic dissection has given you that bond and closeness with somebody, hasn't it?
Yes, yeah.
But again, it's how we perceive that, isn't it?
That's right,
So
yeah.
what I would encourage there is to really bank that on the credit side. of the dissection, that maybe the experience has taken you to a place that you connect with people in a different way, in a deeper, richer way, which, for example, no amount of money would give you that, would it?
No, exactly. And I used to get that from my fitness classes. When I was teaching fitness classes, I used to get the closeness to people who were wanting to be in shape just like me. And they would be taking my advice and I would be listening to their stories. And it was just a closeness. And then I got away from my fitness instruction and I started working at a psychiatric hospital as a patient care worker. It was in a psychiatric hospital. And I got to learn about mental illness and how it affects people. And then it was working 12-hour shifts and it was really taxing on my health, I think.
Imagine, yeah.
Yes. So it gave me another outlook on how people, I think if people have problems, they should talk about them. It helps me to talk about mine. Actually, I had members who joined the Canadian Hope support group meetings, and he was telling me privately, just one-on-one, that he wasn't able to talk to his anybody about his diagnosis. He was diagnosed with an aortic aneurysm, but it was too small to have surgery on, and he couldn't talk about it to anybody. But he went to some of my meetings that I had, and I talk about it. Like I talk about, this is a problem because I'm having this problem doing this, and I'm having this problem doing that. I don't have any qualms about telling people how I'm affected by it. And it opened him up. He said he thanked me for that because he said he's able to talk to his family now about it. And he feels so much better that he can talk about it because, he wasn't able to talk about it. He was in denial. And that's the way we are when we get the first diagnosis, I think, for the watch and wait people.
Or else maybe with denial there was shame as well, because
Yes,
that's another important part of this. I think that sometimes we feel ashamed of the whole experience, or
sure.
how people are gonna, we're so schooled in this society, aren't we, not to appear weak, not to seem weak, that we can be afflicted by a sense of shame with this condition, that I'm not what I should be, or so I shouldn't talk about it.
Yeah, that just triggered something in my mind when you said that, because people would say to me, a lot of the people that were in my fitness classes, my friends, they would say to me, "Oh, you're so strong. You're so strong. You're smart to do all this and get through it all." And I wouldn't feel strong. I'd feel weak. I'd feel defeated. And I had to bottle that in inside because I couldn't say, "No, I'm not strong. I'm just barely getting by." But
Do you think that term becomes a bit of a trap,
yeah, it does. Yeah.
because you kind of have to live up to it, don't you? So, we're out there sort of giving a performance in life.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Trying to be strong for everybody else, but we have to realize ourselves that we're not that strong. We just make it day to day.
Hmm.
Go to
Well,
bed at
again,
night.
like my careful use around the word depression,
Yeah.
I wouldn't get into these terminologies like strong and weak and, excuse me, because they're judgments really. And what do they mean? What is strong? What is weak? There's that famous paradox. Our strengths are our weaknesses, and
Hmm.
our weaknesses are our strengths.
Yes,
Um,
yeah.
so it's just language at the end of the day, isn't it? Because
It is. Yeah.
we can be a mix of all of those things.
Yeah.
So, are there other things you'd like to talk about, or are there that you'd like to discuss, or you'd like to say to people about the experience that you've had?
Um, if you can find someone who's safe to talk to besides your support group, the Aortic Hope support group, when I joined that back a year after my dissection, I used to sit and listen to stories and sit and listen to people say, "Oh, doing good. They're walking, they're doing exercises. And I'd be sitting there thinking, well, I'm not doing good and I'm not doing my
Mm.
exercises because it's too hard. But just talk about it to someone and you talk about it to your moderator in your aortic support group. And there will be someone there that understands what you're saying and they'll agree with you and you'll find camaraderie and somebody that knows what you're going through because we shouldn't go through this alone.
Mm.
That's what I said to one of my members. I said, you don't have to go through this alone. You can confide in us and be safe.
Yes, you've touched on something important there. I think that even in a support group, if we're not careful, we can end up kind of performing,
Yes,
because that could be the nature of being on camera or being in a group of people, and then we come back to ourselves perhaps in the evening and go, a voice goes, maybe quite an authentic voice goes, well, you're not feeling like that at all.
exactly. So when I heard, like I was telling you earlier, when I heard that song that Jelly Roll sings, the name of the song is I Am Not Okay. So when people ask you if you're how you doing, and now I say, if I'm having a bad day, I say, I am not okay. I'm barely getting by,
Mm.
but it'll all be all right.
But I think it's very courageous of you to be authentic like that, because so often people don't want to hear it, do they? They
No,
don't
they
want.
don't want to hear that. They want you to say, "Oh, I'm good,"
Yes,
but but you're not good, so you shouldn't really say you're good.
yes. But again, we have that fear that it becomes a bit of a downer
Yeah,
on the moment, doesn't it? And
yeah,
that we
exactly.
plonk it on the other person. And
Yeah,
yes, but again,
just
I
be
would
honest.
stress that that's often, to remember what the other person is bringing to the question. They have asked, so why shouldn't
Right.
they? What, it's courageous of you to say that, I think.
Well, sometimes I used to say, they would say, "How are you doing, Velda?" And I'd say, "Do you really want to know?"
Mm.
And sometimes they might say, "Why do you say that?" And I say, "Well, because I'm not okay. I don't want to tell you that if you don't want to hear it, because, you have to be practical and
And
honest."
how would they deal with that?
They would just laugh at me because I'm always saying something funny.
But I think you touch on something there which is even more applicable to men, and the way men keep it inside and they feel, they should present a tough exterior and be fine and not admit to anything. And that's a huge part of why male suicide rates are so high.
It is, and men
Mm,
think they have to be brave and be strong and be
mm,
well, but they're
yeah.
really not. They don't have to do that. They can submit to us and say, I'm really not okay. I'm really very upset about something, or I find it hard to do something. And I think once you admit it, you're no longer denying it. And denying anything is really hard on the mind. And I find another thing I'd like to say, when your mind is upset or you're having that voice in your mind that's upsetting you or saying something wrong, your body doesn't work very well because your body and your mind are so connected. If your body's not working right, your mind is going to say, "Oh, stop doing that and don't do this." And like, your body and your mind work really well together, but they have to be in sync.
Hmm.
They have to be thinking and working the same way.
For sure. And one absolutely affects the other, doesn't it?
It does
Yeah.
totally. Yeah,
I mean, if we are
100%.
in pain, it's very difficult to for that not to affect us mentally.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
pain is, for one thing, is very, very distracting. And as I've said before in some of these Thursdays, um, somebody doesn't come into a room and go, "Oh, I'm feeling really tired today." You just don't do it. The body
No,
language is, "Oh, I feel really tired today." So there's a simple example of how body and mind are
yeah, it
connected,
is.
because that person is showing us that their energy is depleted.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good analogy. Yeah.
But again, it's so easily ignored, isn't it? That we separate the body out from the mind,
Yeah,
and don't make those simple connections.
exactly.
Bouncing into a room and saying, "Oh, I feel great today. I feel so much better."
Yeah.
We carry ourselves in a completely different way rather than, "Oh, this is really getting on top of me." Down goes the
Mhm.
head.
Yeah.
Velda, it's been lovely having you with us. I wanted to thank you for your courage and your openness. Um, I'm sure we're all aware that you're having your struggles, but everybody will be supporting you 100% to go to this patient support mobility clinic,
Yes.
and I
Yeah.
think that could be a great step forward for you.
I think it will be too, John. I'm hoping it will be anyway. But you know what? It's really important that I try.
Yes,
That's another song that I like. Try,
yeah,
try,
and
try.
that's all you can do, and
That's all you
be
can do.
kind to yourself in the trying.
Yeah. Yes, be kind to yourself like you were your best friend.
Yes, yeah. Okay, well, thank you for being with us, everybody. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you want to share anything with me or any worries, please feel free to write to me at johnq@aortichope.org. And I look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John.